Hello there. Thanks for stopping by as we journey through another Jamaica magazine. Today marks 74 years since the United Nations Charter first entered into force. Since 1948, every October 24 has been celebrated as United Nations Day. This UN Day, we hope to share with you how Jamaica is making its mark and playing its role in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. But first, a word of advice followed by the news.
If you no want pop down and fenke, you fi burn mosquito and run with dengue. So no make water settle in open container. For them to breed up under the danger. Usher them out, run them away. Slap them with the zapper and down them with spray. Use mosquito net and mosquito screen. Protect your household, now make them come in. If you no want pop down and fenke, if you burn mosquito and run with dengue. If pain lick your head and your joints and your eye, and you want fever meat and your temperature high, it could be dengue, don't hesitate. See a doctor, don't self-medicate. For some painkiller can make you bleed and you will try to recover and no succeed. We no want pop down and fenke. We fi burn mosquito and run with dengue.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry and this is your JIS News for Thursday, October 24. 3,300 households in southeast St. Elizabeth are now benefiting from regular access to potable water. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness commissioned the Essex Valley Water Supply System. The project, costing $630 million, was undertaken by the National Water Commission. It will serve communities such as Junction, Myersville, Nain, Warminster, Long Hill, Stevens Run, and Ballards Valley. At the function, the Prime Minister urged beneficiaries to pay their bills and conserve on the commodity.
We value you and we are putting the money where our value is. Help us to maintain the service. Help us to ensure that the cost is affordable to everyone by each contributing, paying your bill. That's all we ask. Conserve on the use and pay your bill.
Within 2 years' time, Jamaicans will finally welcome the new Western Children and Adolescents Hospital in Montego Bay. Ground was officially broken on Wednesday, marking the start of work on the health facility, which will provide specialist care for children and adolescents up to age 18. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says it will be one of the most sophisticated pieces of public health infrastructure in the country.
It is a 7-floor hospital, 60 rooms for residence facilities, so staff, professionals who work in the institution will also have accommodation in the building. The building will boast outpatient emergency, surgical, lab, and intensive care services.
The 220-bed facility is being built on the compound of the Cornwall Regional Hospital, and Prime Minister Andrew Holness has praised the world-class design of what is to be a green building.
Green in the sense that you will be incorporating plants to create microclimates, and green in the sense that you will be using renewable energy to reduce the carbon footprint of the building and just to make sure that it is a pleasant experience to be in the building.
Funding is being provided through an economic and technical cooperation agreement that was signed in October 2018, under which the Chinese government is providing $36.16 million for the hospital and other projects.
This hospital is a gift from the Chinese government and the people to Brazilian, Jamaican government and the people, especially to Jamaican younger generation. I think is the testimony of our friendship, a goodwill between our two countries.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith will head Jamaica's delegation to next month's China International Import Expo in Shanghai. Jamaica was invited to participate as a guest country of honor. Minister Johnson Smith has said it presents an opportunity to showcase what the island has to offer as a trade and investment destination and partner in the area of commercial relations. China's ambassador to Jamaica says he expects it to further strengthen and expand the cooperative relationship between the two countries.
Prime Minister, you are most welcome to China. I'm fully confident with our joint efforts. Your visit will be a historical one, a successful one, should be a new milestone in our friendly relations.
The contracts have now been signed to construct a new fire station in Port Maria, St. Mary. The World Bank is providing a $217 million loan to build the fire station, which will replace the one that had to be abandoned in 2006. Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Stuart Beckford, says it is a historic moment for the members of the fire service.
We look forward to the construction of this facility as there are several communities that are served by the Port Maria Fire Station. And though we are in a rented facility, it's not the most ideal, but we make do with what we have.
The new Port Maria Fire Station will contain a number of amenities, such as dormitory facilities to accommodate 85 fighting men and women. And finally, Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says he will be seeking to decrease the turnaround time for the acquisition of garbage and fire trucks. Mr. McKenzie says his ministry is currently preparing a cabinet submission which may require Parliament's approval to eliminate a few of the regulations governing the purchasing of such trucks. He argues that due to the lengthy procurement process, challenges are being faced to properly fulfill the functions of solid waste management and fire prevention.
Entities like the National Solid Waste Management Authority and the Jamaica Fire Brigade, because of the nature of the service that they provide, that some sort of special dispensation be given to them so that it doesn't take you 2 years. Because in most cases, it takes in excess of 18 months to order and to get trucks to come in to the system.
Mr. McKenzie made the statements at a joint function for the handover of garbage trucks to the NSWMA and contract signing for the Port Maria Fire Station. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Protect yourself from the flu virus. Visit your nearest health center or doctor to get the flu vaccine. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water or by using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid the spread of germs by not touching your eyes, mouth, or nose. And be sure to regularly disinfect surfaces and objects that are used often. Remember, your health is your responsibility.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness served as Jamaica's representative at the recently held 74th United Nations General Assembly. At the conference, Mr. Holness participated in the Sustainable Development Goals Summit, which sought to review progress in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and its SDGs. Watch as the Prime Minister shared actions being taken by Jamaica to achieve these goals.
Excellencies, the Global Sustainable Development Report, Levers of Transformation, Governance, Economy and Finance, Individual and Collective Action, and Science and Technology are intrinsic to Jamaica's development efforts. The principles of good governance and accountability have been institutionalized in our public service. Additionally, we have revised our fiscal policies, social protection systems, financial sector regulations, and trade policies to ensure that they are in line with new realities. We are faced, however, with the challenge of recurrent debt. But with bipartisan partnership and citizenship commitment, we have lowered our debt to GDP ratio by over 40%. It is worthy to note that Jamaica is the world's only example of a small country that has attained such a significant reduction in public debt so quickly without debt relief, forgiveness, or bilateral debt support. Notwithstanding this achievement, as a small island developing state, we remain extremely vulnerable to external shocks, particularly natural disasters, which could severely erode these gains in a matter of a few hours. My government is therefore committed to the implementation of policies to protect the poorest and most vulnerable, evidenced by increased budgetary allocations to social protection programs and initiatives. We acknowledge the tremendous value of science and technology to the attainment of our development goals. We have increased investment in these areas, and we are also partnering with universities in research and development for innovation. Our own University of the West Indies has been integral to the findings of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report of November 2018. Jamaica welcomes partnerships at the national, regional, and global levels. An excellent example of the socialization of wealth was a recent public offering of a renewable energy company. It broadens ownership of the Jamaican economy while generating well-needed financing for addressing multiple SDGs, particularly inequality, climate action, and partnership. In keeping with the commitment to expand economic opportunity for all, we have increased access to financing for micro, small, and medium enterprises through a program managed by the Development Bank of Jamaica. These are but a few of the concrete steps we are taking towards development. However, access to financing remains a challenge, particularly in the context of our classification as an upper middle income country. The sustainability of our efforts, therefore, requires adequate financing to fully attain the SDGs. This challenge poses a real threat to the hard-won gains generated by our responsible stewardship of the development process. I therefore urge development partners to redouble their efforts and contribute resources for the delivery of the 2030 Agenda. We also encourage UN member states and the UN development system to continue fostering an enabling environment for meaningful and durable partnerships for the benefit of all. No one should be left behind. I thank you.
Garbage collection, maintenance of public sanitary conveniences, upkeep of cemeteries, provision of water shops, road improvement, street lights, poor relief programs, community beautification. All these services are funded by you. Yes, they are, when you pay your property tax. Pay your annual property tax to make Jamaica the place of choice for all.
We're still celebrating our heritage, a great heritage. And so today we highlight the island's first and only heroine.
Lend me a nanny now.
Nanny? Which of the money is that again? You know it's long time me not use Jamaican money.
Cause me not here, me in foreign.
It's the $500. The one with the only female hero on it. Nanny of the Maroons? Or you not remember she either?
Yeah, you know, a little bit.
What? Oh, you feel remember the great Nanny of the Maroons? Alright, let me give you a run through.
Today, Moortown and other communities in the Blue and John Crow Mountains of northeastern Jamaica stand as permanent reminders of the bravery and fortitude of the island's only female national hero, Nanny of the Maroons. Nanny was among a group of brave enslaved men and women who dared to resist their master's rule by running away. These runaway slaves formed communities in the hilly interior of the island and fiercely protected them from the Spanish and later the British. After decades of warfare, the British finally yielded by recognizing the Maroons as an independent people with the signing of a treaty in 1739. The autonomy of the Windward Maroons is largely due to Nanny's tenacity as a revolutionary chiefess. Most of what we know about Maroon leaders, including Nanny, has been passed down through oral history, but that hasn't diluted her prominence in Jamaican folklore. According to stories, Nanny came to Jamaica as a slave from the Ashanti tribe of the Akan region of West Africa. It is said that she, along with her brothers Akompo, Kojo, Johnny, Kofi, and Kwaho, ran away from a St. Thomas plantation, settling in the mountains of Portland. Nanny remained in the Blue Mountains while her brothers branched out into other mountainous regions on the western end of the island. Popularly known as Nanny Town, Tony River, as the Maroons called it, was led by Nanny. Nanny's community was well organized, with its members surviving on animals raised and hunted, as well as crops grown and raided from plantations. Security came in the form of the location of the community high in the Blue Mountains, weapons seized in raids, and traditional African weapons of bow, arrows, and spears. Tony River was destroyed in one of the many fights between the Maroons and the British, causing Nanny to move her community deeper into the hills to what is now present-day Moortown.
Oh, me remember now. But you see, this part of the story, I hear it time and time again. But what I'm curious about though is what kind of woman she was. I mean, like, with all the fighting to maintain freedom, a family. Did she have any husbands?
Yes, man. Nanny was a woman for all seasons. From the stories me hear, she didn't marry a man named Ado, but them never have any children. That no means that she never married any children, you know. She was mommy nanny, granny nanny. She helped raise most of the children in Tony River.
Innit?
Nanny was our mother. She was our queen, she was our priestess, and she was our chieftainess. Because she operated in all four roles, right? She was mother for the entire community. She was royal, she was regal, right? She was a queen. In terms of the spiritual ways of the community, in the guiding of the community, she was that person who would take on that role for the community. She was a military strategist for the community as well, so therefore she was a chiefess. Any leader of any ilk or any quality generally rules with two gloves, two separate pair of gloves. One is a cotton glove and one is a iron glove. And you have the cotton glove on and then you have the iron one and you put the cotton one over it.
And Queen Nanny did just that, making a community out of different African tribes with kindness and compassion. But she was also a stern leader, dealing with dissent while making tough decisions. Nanny was not only the political and military leader of her tribe, she also served as spiritual leader. Before Nanny and the Maroon warriors would go off to battle the British, she would prepare them for ambushes, the popular style of Maroon combat.
Warriors would be trained and everybody would be given a cut and they would send to a special pool in the river, right? Where they could go and dip in the water. And if you come back out and your cut is not well, then you don't go to fight. But anybody who dip and come back out and their cut was well, then they can go into fight. There are times when it required a consultation with the Jege, and if you consult the Jege and the Jege tell you can't go, then you don't go to fight. You do a lot of things, and that was going on the responsibility.
Always looking out for the well-being of her fellow Africans, Granny Nanny rescued slaves from the plantations on the plains. It's often said that after the Maroons signed the treaty with the British, they began to turn back runaway slaves, or even captured them for the British.
The fact is that the Maroons would have taken in more persons than they would have returned. 200 years ago, 275 years ago, it had much more vegetation than now. It was much more covered and more people could have come and stay in the community undetected by the authorities. The authorities had 2 white superintendents who were supposed to reside with the Maroons, and most of the time the Maroons make life for them rough so that they had to leave. So many of the time they never really have the superintendent, the white superintendent living with them. So they could take in anybody that they want. The Maroons would have deliberately gone to the plantation and take away slaves from the plantation.
What about her death though? Like, how did she die?
Well, the British want people to believe that them loyal slave copy did kill her in the war. But the Maroons themselves nanny lived long after the war ended. She buried in a bump grave in Moortown.
And legacy. Talk to me about her legacy. Legacy.
Today, Maroon communities such as Moortown is warrior spirit and Maroon heritage alive.
We like Jamaica to know that the generation is still here and we're still keeping the things together. We dance, so Jamaica can just keep on, come and who want to can come and visit the community, and we're here, to take you on the tours wherever you want to go. You want to go to Nanny Falls, you want to sit and reason about Nanny. We're still here. It's not like the culture dead out or anything like that.
So Nanny was truly a mystical woman of all seasons.
Yes. Like, when I tell you more about the heroine, I can't get the nanny now.
You're not easy, but no problem. You can have your nanny.
Have you been experiencing breast, chest, upper back, shoulder or neck pain? Have your breasts and nipples been itchy? Have they changed size, shape, appearance or sensitivity? Do you notice a swelling or lump in your armpit? If the answer is yes to a few of these, you may have breast cancer. Be sure to visit your doctor or the nearest health center for tests to be administered.
On June 25, 2012, Jamaican sprinter Noveline Williams-Mills was diagnosed with breast cancer. In that same year, she finished 5th in the 400 meters at the London Olympics and won a bronze medal in the 4x400 meter relays. At 31 years old, this young woman is a 5-time world champion and 3-time Olympic medalist representing Brand Jamaica proudly. She was brave enough to do a double mastectomy, removing both her breasts to lessen her chances of getting the disease again. In recent times, Williams-Mills is bravely speaking out to stress that early detection is what saved her life and to educate people that breast cancer is no respecter of age, fitness or talent. More important, she wants people to know breast cancer can be beaten. We salute Noveline Williams-Mills and all our breast cancer survivors. Keep fighting.
Cervical cancer, caused by the human papillomavirus HPV, is a major public health concern in Jamaica. Almost 50% of the women diagnosed each year die from this preventable disease. To prevent cervical cancer and save lives, the Ministry of Health is providing the bivalent HPV vaccine to girls ages 9 to 14 years free of cost. Parents, give your girls a fighting chance against this deadly disease. The bivalent HPV vaccine is safe and provides 90 to 100% protection against HPV type 16 and 18, which are responsible for most HPV-caused cancers. Call the Ministry of Health's toll-free line 1-888-1-LOVE or 1-888-663-5683 for more information, or email us at hpvinfo@moh.gov.jm. You can also find further information on the website moh.gov.jm, as well as the Ministry of Health's social media channels.
Speeding through life and the traffic lights till somebody get hurt and the tears start cry. Save a life for the kids, for you and I. Save kids' lives. Make the road safe whether day or night, for pedestrians, passengers, cars and bikes. Save a life for the kids, for you and I. Save kids' lives.
Hey, man,
It's our job to keep the road them safe. And to take care of the youth them so we know them safe. And obey the road code, no race. No bother with the speeding case, make face. And check your light them on your tires and brakes. Riders on the pillions who left the helmet. Put on the cell phone, no send no text. No matter what color they on your plate.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you could save a life. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, I beg you please be safe. Wear your seatbelt for keep you safe. And make sure your helmet's in place when you're on the road.
Hey, follow me. Well, everybody drive good and walk good. Then teach the youth them how to cross good. I beg you obey the road signs, park good. I put the young ones in a car seats, all good. And everybody drive good and walk good. And we say young and old, I beg you cast good. Remember the dark clothes at night, that is not good. From you I use up the sidewalk, it's all good.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you could save a life. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, I beg you please be safe. Wear your seatbelt to keep you safe. And make sure your helmet's in place when you're on the road. When you're on the road, when you're on the road.
And that's all the time we have on this station, but your engagement with us doesn't have to end. Join us online. There's our website, our pages on all the major social media sites, our YouTube channel and our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.